Hi everyone, welcome to Sunrise Extra on a Friday, September 11th, if you weren't paying attention to the date, as if there wasn't enough going on. So we're going to continue our wildfire coverage here streaming online. If you're new to the show, you see us maybe popping up on your social media because everyone's looking for updates. Right. This is called Sunrise Extra. We do it regardless of what's happening. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's serious. Every morning at 7 a.m. we chat live with you. It's totally unscripted. We watch your comments on our phones and social media, so chat live, ask questions. Rod's here for great weather coverage too. And we're talking about the fires.
Right. Really no choice when it comes to the Sunrise Extra topic this morning, because this is something that we've been dealing with all week long. And we've talked about this on the Sunrise TV show this morning. There are so many people that are directly impacted by the fires in that they're losing property right now. They're having to evacuate their homes. I mean, so we've never seen it cover an area like these fires have covered this week. But even if you're not directly affected by the fires per se, if you're not in an area that has to evacuate, how many people are avoiding the smoke right now? I feel like there's nowhere to go in our area to really avoid the smoke. And that's something that Rod Hill has been talking about all week long as well. Right now we're taking a look at the map that shows some of the active fires around the state. There are so many, it's hard to say, well, this is the big one, because there are so many big ones depending on what county you want to focus in on. Clackamas County has been an area of focus just because we're not used to seeing the metro area impacted like this by wildfires.
Bring up that map again, because I want to show, and you were great zoomed in, producer Celeste, where you were, because so all of the like dark red, that is the level 3, yellow is level 2, green is level 1, and then you see within that red blob, you see the outline of the actual fire. So see those two blobs kind of within the red, those are the actual fires. That top one is the Riverside fire in Clackamas County. The bottom kind of left one is the Beachy Creek, and the bottom rightish one that's kind of, you know, it's all together with Beachy Creek, that's the Lion's Head fire. And you see where the two blobs, I'm professionally calling them, are about to merge. They may have already overnight, and that's what fire officials we're really kind of waiting for, and they will update this map throughout the day. But these three fires really have kind of merged together into one massive one, and when we may see a new name for that complex come in the coming days. But it blew up, boy, yesterday late afternoon.
So many people watching us right now on all of our various platforms, of course, Twitter, YouTube, and I'm monitoring the Facebook feed right now. That's why I'm looking at my phone. I want to address one quick question right here from Lori Ann. She says, how's Molalla, how's Canby? And that brings up the level 3 and level 2 evacuation notices that are in place right now in Clackamas County. Molalla, part of the level 3. Estacada and Molalla, two very big areas that are both in evacuation mode 3 right now, which means get out. You're supposed to get out if you live in Molalla or Estacada. Canby, meanwhile, joins Oregon City and Sandy as level 2. Level 2, which means sometimes we say get set. To me, that doesn't really define what level 2 is really all about. It's supposed to mean
you are packed up at this point.
You're ready to go at a moment's notice. And for some people, they go, well, why am I going to wait for that notice? If I'm at level 2, I'm going now. So that's where Molalla and Canby stands. Maggie Vespa, meanwhile, and Rod, we will get to you in a moment as well. Rod Hill joining us on Sunrise Extra. But Maggie has been with us this morning live out there in Clackamas County. Specifically, I know that shopping center where you're at, Maggie, in Oregon City. Relatively quiet there right now, but man, was Oregon City and the Highway 213 that leads out of there jam-packed yesterday.
Yeah, 100%. And by the way, just to kind of add to your answer to that question, the crews, those of us who have been out in the areas that have been evacuated or under any kind of evacuation notice, we are going into areas to get some looks at the damage, but we're also being very cognizant that we don't want to do that recklessly, and we definitely don't want to do that as much as possible in areas that are evacuation 3, level 3 evacuation notices, because that puts firefighters at risk. We're not trying to go in and make extra work and extra work for them if we get into a precarious, dangerous situation. Exactly. So we would love to give people updates, as many updates as possible on every town and every area they've left. but it's not safe to do that right now. We'll do that as soon as it's safe, and we'll try to reach out to agencies and get people answers to those questions. But that's why those answers are kind of lagging. But yeah, we're here in Oregon City. This is basically a Safeway and shopping center parking lot that's been turned into sort of an evacuation site for people with RVs and people with trailers. And so we didn't want to shine like a big bright light on them in the early morning shows, so it was rather dark. But you can get kind of an idea of how many people are here. I'll show you the video that Drew was talking about, and we showed some of it in the morning show as well, of people that were driving on, I think this was Highway 213, headed west yesterday, and it was just thousands of people evacuating, and a lot of them, Drew, like you said, you're totally right, they got under a level 2 evacuation notice and thought, well, I'm not waiting, and they got on the road and they got to evacuation sites, or they got out of the area and went to family or friends' houses, you name it. Pretty much everything right now that's east of the Willamette River is under level 2 or level 3, and level 3, like you said, means leave now. Level 2 means be ready to leave at a moment's notice. Level 3, I mean, we're talking about cities like Estacada and Malala, and last update as far west as Beaver Creek. And this is really because we have multiple fires in Clackamas County, including the Beachy fire getting ready to merge with the River Creek fire, fire officials tell us. And I mean, we keep using the word unprecedented to the point where it's tired, but this is historic. And firefighters have told us that that's part of why they pulled back yesterday from the fire lines, was to kind of reassess how they can best fight this fire, how they can safely do it. Adding to that, and I mentioned this in the morning show because I think it's important, people keep asking, why aren't they just dumping water on it from the air? And firefighters told us yesterday, this smoke is so thick, they can't even see it from the air. They can't fight it, they can't see it. And so this is a really dire situation that they, to a large degree, kind of have to, they tell us, let sort of burn off and fade a little bit. But, you know, my heart just broke when I heard Drew reading that question, because I've got so many people asking me the same thing. How's my hometown? We had people coming up to us yesterday in Marion County saying, have you been to Gates? Did you get to Mill City? My house was on this specific street. Did you see it? And it broke our hearts, because we can't get to those areas because they were dangerous and because people had to leave. And this is just horrible. We wish we could give people more comfort and more info. But everything is still so dangerous and still unpredictable right now.
Yeah. Maggie, I was watching, we have like an inter-office kind of messaging thing, and I was seeing yesterday, Maggie, you were down in Marion County, and you were kind of getting ready to file your story for our noon newscast, and you saw a bunch of police and sheriff's cars go whizzing past you. And, you know, at the time, I saw your note, you checked in with them, they're like, oh, it was someone eluding a traffic stop. And that turned out to be looters, right? I mean, I know this wasn't directly part of your story today, but I mean, how awful. Those two guys arrested now for doing that, allegedly.
100%. Yeah, what happened was we were in the parking lot where Highway 22 was shut down, and there was an Oregon State police trooper, we saw him at sunrise, who was keeping cars from getting on the highway and letting them know where they could go if they needed to get somewhere. And all of a sudden it was 2 police cars, and then 2 deputies, and then 2 more. And my photographer Chad, who's here now, is saying, that's a lot of police, and from multiple agencies, and they're all helping each other right now. So I walked over to the trooper and I said, can you tell us what that was? And he kind of went, yeah, that was somebody who was eluding a traffic stop. And I said, can you tell me any more than that? It seemed like a lot of cars for something like that. And he said, you're going to need to check with Marion County. They're the ones in charge right now of that case. And so reached out to them right away, and they said, we're working on it. We'll get back to you. It took hours. And then they came back and they said, yeah, we've arrested 2 men for looting inside the evacuation zone, which was so heartbreaking and so frustrating, and just all the awful emotions you would think. It's part of why Clackamas County right now, they say they have deputies, extra deputies patrolling the areas that have been evacuated as much as they can do so safely, to keep that from happening. So that was awful.
Sadly, some people don't evacuate for that very reason, right? Even though they're at a level 3 even. Sometimes they're afraid to leave because they don't know what they'll come home to. One of the best parts, I always say, Maggie, about Sunrise Extra, great to have you on it today, by the way, is how the people can chime in directly with us and ask us the questions. There are too many, literally too many to keep up with this morning. But Dawn Kimmelinger happened to chime in about this very thing at this very moment, saying now it's not just the fires, it's criminals. Ugh. UGH, she spells it out. If our house is still there when it's over, will our stuff be there? This is so sad. She says very high anxiety right now, and that's a feeling that a lot of our viewers are sharing. I am curious about one thing, Maggie, because I'm looking at an area that you're standing in, Oregon City, which is now at a level 2, which means be ready to go at a moment's notice. You have people there at what is essentially a set-up evacuation site, a shelter, but I'm thinking it's weird to have a shelter set up in a level 2 area, right? I mean, eventually they may have to leave that spot.
It's super weird. And this was addressed, we were talking about this between our crews yesterday. They've had to move evacuation sites, and they've had to move these sort of like relief sites that people can go to get help or to get guidance on what to do a few times because this fire has progressed. I mean, days ago, Clackamas County wasn't a concern, or at least it wasn't a big one. And like we said, Estacada, Beaver Creek, these cities that days ago, people thought that they might potentially, maybe a small chance, have to leave. They've now had to get out of, and any sites that were in those areas, aka what's now level 3, they've had to move people out of those. So people have been moving between evacuation sites and new ones have been established. And that's really, really rare. I mean, I think Matt Zaffino and Dan were talking about this yesterday as well, that usually when you see an evacuation site set up, that place is safe. Like, it's set up in a spot that's not going to, where people aren't going to be at risk. So it's really strange for us to be reporting new addresses for evacuation sites and then retracting old ones because they're now unsafe. It's really bizarre and really unsettling, guys. I mean, I know you know.
We've waited a long time to get to Rod Hill. So Rod, I know you've been standing by. I want to ask you a specific question, Rod. You can take your choice, forecaster's choice, whatever you want to talk about in relations to the fire and the weather right now.
Okay. Well, like you and Nina and our KGW staff, who's also watching all the comments come rolling in, our web staff's answering some of the questions I've noticed. A lot of people waking up and wanting fire updates. And please, Nina and Drew, correct me if I'm saying something that doesn't seem correct in terms of what you've seen as watching the news feeds. But people asking about an update on Estacada. We don't have any news yet this morning that fire moved any closer to Estacada since last evening. Last evening, reports were 2-3 miles outside of Estacada. The weather pattern has turned light and variable to west, and that means the humidity levels are up. There's reason to believe that the fire weather will mean these fires aren't quite as explosive today, so we're keeping our fingers crossed on that. There's probably not going to be a strong enough wind direction to actually push these fires or shove them in any one direction. We're hoping that the more westerly light pattern will at least help hold the fires burning on the west slope of the Cascades, maybe away from the I-5 or the Willamette Valley corridor. So we're watching that, but we have very limited new news from the fire people yet this morning. I do want to show you our Rose City camera. This is the smokiest I think I've seen this camera this entire week. And we talked about this yesterday, that today would likely, for many of us, be the worst air quality day that we would see so far this week. That looks like it's coming true. It's unhealthy to hazardous air quality being reported from southwest Washington all the way down through Portland and Salem at this hour, 56 degrees. Again, the light to west wind pattern is actually taking smoke that had blown out over the Pacific and now starting to return it back to us. So that's not great news. Moderate air quality in yellow now being reported out across eastern Oregon, and you folks are under an air quality warning as well, as smoke will continue to drift all the way into Idaho. So yesterday it was sunny in central Oregon, or at least hazy sunshine, the same thing in the gorge. Now central Oregon and the gorge out through the Dalles are overcast, much like Portland is. This shows that smoke plume that is expected to have thick smoke all the way to Pendleton, all the way to Burns by later this afternoon. And there's no relief in sight through tomorrow. Maybe Sunday at the coast we'll start to see improving air quality, and then we'll hope with some rain in the forecast next Monday that will improve the air quality for a lot of the rest of us as well. You know, and I'll wrap up on this. We've been talking about how historic this is. And again, there's a link on my KGW Rod Hill Facebook page to a great story that Pat Doris did. I think he filed that story on Wednesday. And it talks about these mega fires, which are 100,000 acres or more. Throughout the history of Oregon, we kept track of this going back to 1900. From 1900 until we started this year, we had never had at any point more than 2 of those mega fires in any given year, and yet we have 3 of them burning right now. And it's also unusual to get big fires, as you know, if you're a local, on the west flank of the Cascades. It just doesn't happen that often. Now a good chunk of the west flank of the Cascades is on fire and threatening and wiping out homes, and in some cases has indeed taken lives. So it is something we have never seen before, and let's hope we have improving news soon. Back to you.
And on the latest count from the state of Oregon, we are now up to 5 mega fires over 100,000 acres. It was at 4 yesterday, and they just continue to grow. I want to address something that we covered this morning, and Kristen Severance, one of our investigators. This comment from Debbie James. Good morning, Debbie.
Saw that.
She says, I can't believe the media is saying people are not out setting fires. They are, and literally threatening people to burn us down. It's not right to say rumors. So here's the clarification, Debbie, and please, for everyone listening. There are investigations of possible arson. For example, down in Ashland, the Alameda fire started at a BMX bike park. Someone died there. Their body was found there. That fire is under criminal investigation for how it started. We don't know how it started yet. It's under investigation. There are several other fires in Oregon and up and down the West Coast, Washington, California, that are under investigation for arson.
Right.
The thing that is the rumor is whether these are politically motivated by the far right or the far left, or by Antifa or by Trump supporters. That, as far as today goes, is absolutely not true. And several police departments and law enforcement agencies are posting to beg you to stop sharing these rumors online. That picture right there, if you stop scrolling, this is some random dude's mugshot somebody pulled off the internet and made a fake press release saying that this guy is Antifa, he was arrested for arson. It's totally false. There was no arrest. There is no connection to Antifa. This guy had a mugshot for something else. There was another rumor out of Roseburg that 6 Antifa followers were arrested for starting fires there. Not true. There was no one arrested, and no one was linked to Antifa. These are the things you just have to consider the source. Before you share anything, go to a credible source, go to a law enforcement source. They don't have any reason to lie to you. We are not lying to you in any way. And if there becomes a real legit link to any of those rumors, we will tell you about it. But right now, please don't share that kind of stuff, because people are calling 911 and tying up 911 lines, asking police about these kinds of rumors.
I never like to use the word rumor because immediately people think that we're saying it's false. A rumor could be true, right? A rumor is word that's being spread, and then you have to do the due diligence and do the investigations to prove whether the rumor, if you will, was true or false. And so in this case, you just pulled up the examples. There are some things on the internet right now that have been absolutely proven to be false.
Yeah.
Fake mugshots.
And it looks real, you paste the name of an agency and you can find a real mugshot. There's a lot, it's called disinformation, and we've had a lot of training in it to be able to spot it online. So just be careful what you share.
It also doesn't mean that we don't believe that people are capable of, or even have in some cases, set some of the small fires that are happening around the area right now. But please be aware that not everything that you see on the internet, especially those cases that we pointed out in Kristen's Verify report, they're not all true. Yeah,
it's not linked to a coordinated Antifa plan, as you may have heard, but there may be people arrested. So anyway, who else?
On a different note. Okay, go ahead, Rod. You got the different note.
I just want to say one thing, and then I've got to get going and ready for this next Today's Show cut in. But Sean Harmon asking, where's the best spot to get information on the fires? Please understand, we're getting it out on KGW.com and our social platforms as quickly as we can. Typically in these settings, we don't get much of an update until we at least get into the 8 o'clock hour of the morning. But the information we have so far, and I said this earlier, is that the Big Hollow Fire up in Southwest Washington, the Riverside Fire in Estacada, we don't have any news that those fires made any significant westward progress overnight. If that is true, which I'm not sure it is, we just don't have news of it, then that is good news. But just keep doing what you're doing. Google your county sheriff and fire. Check on KGW.com, KGW's Twitter and Facebook feeds. We'll get the information to you as quickly as we can. And I like to tell people, sometimes no news is good news. And with that, I've got to get going. But I wish everybody the best and safety.
There are a lot of people asking for, is there any new update? What are you guys talking about? So here, if you were watching football last night, or if you went to bed, Clackamas County, here's something, new kind of later into the night last night. Clackamas County imposed an overnight curfew now until further notice. So it starts at 10 p.m. and it goes till 6 a.m. It went into effect for the first time last night. If you do not have a job, if you're not a first responder, if you're not actively evacuating, they want you to stay off the roads for that curfew. Level 2s for Oregon City, Canby, and Sandy, still in effect this morning. I saw a tweet from Sandy Police. They did patrols all night. Everything's still good in those neighborhoods, at least in Sandy. We have not heard of any, new devastation as of this morning. I'm not sure when the latest update from state fire officials will be. Sky 8, our helicopter, it only had 1.5 miles of visibility this morning because of the smoke. They need 2 miles to fly. That is what's keeping a lot of these water dropping helicopters on the ground. Our helicopter could not fly this morning because it is too smoky. They can't see where to drop the water.
All right, we do have to run now. I know Rod has already left the building, so to speak, but there is so much that's going to happen. We just know over the weekend. Developments, hopefully for the better. We certainly hope so. Here's the bottom line. If you live in an area that's under an evacuation order, we ask that you absolutely take it seriously this weekend. If you're in a level 1, especially if you're in a level 2, and if you wind up being in an area that ends up in a level 3 evacuation zone, please listen to those orders and move yourself, move your family to safety. We hope to see you all again here on Monday. We know that this story will continue to dominate our coverage, but we do look forward to talking to you all again at the start of next week.